Welcome to British North America, a rapidly expanding and increasingly changing set of British colonies in the 1860s. As we've seen in our past units, these colonies have grown and developed over the years with many different governmental and societal changes, dating all the way back to contact with Jacques Cartier and Chief Donnacona, moving through to the Royal Proclamation of 1763, and all of the subsequent changes that transpired afterwards. We have now reached a critical time in the history of this country, one where decisions will be made which will lead to the creation of a new nation. Now, how does this come about? We know that the Canadian Confederation officially dates back to 1867. We have come to refer to this time as the birth of a nation, where we begin to take control of our country and become more autonomous in regards to our relationship with Great Britain. Without pushing for the questioning of this dominant discourse that has permeated history lessons throughout the years, this is still a very important time in Canadian history for all of those involved. But how, and more importantly, why did we decide at this time that a union between all of the individual colonies in British North America was necessary and, more importantly, beneficial? There are many things that led to this union, including the political problems, the varied economic, geographic, and commercial challenges, as well as the varied pressures from the United States. Firstly, we have the Union Act of 1840, which renamed Upper and Lower Canada to Canada East, which will become Quebec, and Canada West, which will become Ontario. At this time, Great Britain declared that both Canadas would receive equal representation in the elected assembly in the province of Canada. But that leads to a huge political impasse. What does this mean? Well, the government couldn't actually pass any decision because one side would always negate the other. Canada East versus Canada West. French versus English. Government after government, no one could succeed at convincing both sides to agree on any decision being put forth, meaning that nothing was getting done. Not only that, but no government could last in these conditions, and subsequently, many governments came and went in British North America. There was no political stability. As a side note, George Brown was one of the first to suggest that equal representation was not, in fact, equitable. Rather, representation should be based on population, where we get the infamous quote, rep by pop. Your elected assembly would reflect the number of constituents it represents. This would be a suggestion for the upcoming Canadian Confederation. So, political problems were very much at the forefront of life in British North America. However, there were also a variety of economic, geographic, and commercial challenges facing the residents of this vast and varied land. There begins an economic decline in British North America after Great Britain no longer offers British North America preferential treatment in regards to their wheat and grain products. Without this preferential treatment, prices for these products increase and exports towards Great Britain collapse. This is when the British North American colonies realize that perhaps it is better to work together with each other rather than with Great Britain to achieve the economic success and independence they so desired. To achieve this success, most colonies realized the value in a connecting line between all of them, a railroad. The building of this railroad would ensure quicker access to goods coming from British North American colonies. These goods would no longer need to pass through the United States in the colder winter months, and a railroad between colonies would ensure a more direct access line. Railroads are, however, very expensive, and one colony could not take on this debt on its own. This endeavor needed to be a group effort. They needed to unify to make it succeed. The railroad would also help populate the west of British North America, which would continue to grow the latter's strength. This strength would be beneficial and, honestly, necessary in regards to the upcoming threat from the south, the United States. Now, the United States had been developing itself since it gained its independence from Great Britain officially in 1783. In the 1860s, however, it was suffering from a bloody and brutal civil war, pitting the North against the South. Although they claimed neutrality, Great Britain needed cotton from the South and would get this cotton by building small ships and continuing trade with the southern states. Furthermore, when the United States stopped at the Trent, a small British ocean liner in neutral waters with 2 Confederate agents on board, Confederate meaning from the southern United States, tension rose between the 2 colonies. The northern states imprisoned the 2 Confederate agents, causing Britain to threaten an attack if they were not let free. Abraham Lincoln, president of the northern states, let them go, but tension was not lost between these 2 nations. So, what does this have to do with British North America? Well, Great Britain, geographically, is very far from the United States, making an attack practically impossible. But the colonies to the north of the United States, still under British rule, are very close and could easily be attacked. This worried the citizens in the British North American colonies, which included Canada East and Canada West, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Prince Edward Island. These colonies feared an imminent attack from the United States, particularly because the latter also believed it was its destiny to own all of North America. Furthermore, there were the Fenian raids in 1866 to 1871 that caused tremendous concern in the British North American colonies. Fenians were groups of Irishmen living in the United States that were promoting Ireland's liberation from Great Britain. They thought that if they could take New Brunswick or another British North American colony hostage, they could use this as a way to bargain for Ireland's freedom. In so doing, they attacked just crossing the American border and at one point caused 5 Canadian deaths and over 30 injured soldiers. Although Great Britain did send troops to their colonies for protection, without a railroad, the transportation was slow. The colonies needed to protect themselves. All of this was actually another reason to unify and to start building a railroad. Finally, the United States also ended its reciprocity agreement with the British North American colonies. This reciprocity agreement allowed for free trade on products like grain, wood, fish, livestock, and coal. This further pushed the colonies to consider joining together and working on economic cooperation with each other, no longer having to depend upon another country like the United States or Great Britain for economic success. Therefore, there were a variety of reasons and events that pushed these 6 British North American colonies to consider unifying together. The political climate, the economic, commercial, and geographic difficulties, as well as the pressures from the United States, all led to a greater need for cooperation between colonies. So, what would you have done if you were a leader of one of these colonies? Would you have united with those around you, or kept your status quo and hoped for the best? Well, think about it, because this will be your next task coming up next week. Now, don't forget to fill in your concept map using bubble.us about the problems in British North America prior to Confederation, and send it my way before our next Zoom session. Thanks and have a great week, guys!